Hello and welcome to today's podcast of Her Version, a podcast dedicated to hearing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Today, we have an amazing guest speaker with us, Aimee Fritz. Aimee is a mother of a beautiful daughter and is here to share a story of mental and emotional struggle that she was forced to navigate through. Everything from a relationship with an alcoholic, being a single mom, multiple narcissistic abuse scenarios, and rape. She is here today to tell her story in order to inspire other women to keep pushing forward in a positive way because there is hope for emotional and mental freedom. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You're good? Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to sit down with me and us. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Did you have a good day today?
I did, yes. It was very nice. Uneventful, quiet, peaceful.
Just the way we like it.
Yes.
Just the way we like it. Well, I want to dive into your story. I kind of want to, hear about, things that you've gone through. As you know, there's so many women out there that are struggling with so much stuff. And a lot of times they hit areas in their life where they feel like there's no way out. And they turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they commit suicide.
Yeah.
And it's very important to share your struggle so other people can hear and they can relate and they can say to themselves, wow, if she did it, I can do it. And it's one life saved from all of that, all those addictions and possibly even death.
For sure.
So if you don't mind, I'd like it if you kind of just opened up a little bit about your younger years and what kind of led you to eventually ending up in an abusive relationship. How did that even happen?
So, you never can really pinpoint it. You just kind of assume. When I was growing up, I was very loved. It wasn't, anything lack of love, maybe lack of attention. My parents worked a lot, and so I was alone a lot, and because of that, and then being away so much, I got myself into a lot of trouble and the wrong environment. And when I was about 14, I was raped, and because I'm not blaming myself, but I definitely put myself in a terrible situation that I shouldn't have, and of course, that shouldn't have happened at all. But I do think that may have been the first pivotal moment, turning point, because it's in your early cognitive development years still.
Yeah.
So instead of being angry and hateful, I unfortunately and fortunately turned to the empathy side, and it just made me like go inward, be more of an introvert, of course. And my parents, we weren't like really open with each other, so I didn't talk to them about stuff like that. So I just kept it inside and, just continuing with the bad environments and putting myself in terrible situations and not saying no. And I guess I never learned boundaries. No one taught me. And I don't know if that's something you can teach, it's learned, but I didn't learn very early. So
yeah.
That's mostly, what it was. And then I just became a submissive and a people pleaser, my parents were always critical. It was hardly ever that I got praise. And so I don't ever like to blame them, but I do think that stuff like that does contribute. And so I, just always became always trying to make people happy and just a doormat. I just became a doormat. And up until recently, I didn't think I was, and it's crazy the stuff you learn at 38.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Yes. And so I just bad choices.
Yeah.
But I think that's what really kicked it off.
I totally understand. What's interesting about what you said is there's so many individuals just like us, same age as us, that's never really done the personal development or read or therapy or anything. And at this age or older, they're still in this blender of emotions and not really understanding how or why or being able to navigate it. And, I think it's great that, you are where you are mentally and being able to say like, hey, it might have been from this, but not necessarily from this. And I put myself in this situation. Taking ownership of that is so important. And a lot of that comes with reading and therapy and, and communicating your emotions.
One thing my parents did good in that regard is taking responsibility. They've always instilled taking responsibility, and it's almost to a fault sometimes, because I'll just like call myself out for when I didn't need to. But so that kind of did play into it, and I'm learning more that by reading and stuff, like you said, that I needed a little bit more.
I totally get it, for sure. So what age did you get married?
And actually, so I was never married. I was in, no, that's fine. Everyone says that, because I was in a, can you hear me? It says my internet's unstable. Okay, good. I was in a domestic partnership, and I did that for my daughter's dad so we could get his son on my insurance. And and also kind of to shut him up about getting married, because I already knew it was bad, because he was the first narcissist. Well, no, he was the second or third, who knows, but he was one of them. He was one of the biggest. And so I already knew it was bad, but I just was just trying to get something going. And so I was in that, and it was terrible. It was with, a narcissist, of course, and he was an alcoholic, so that wasn't fun. But
do you mind sharing some of the things? Because a lot of times when we're in these relationships, we don't realize it's abusive. If all you're doing is leading your life off of like romance movies and, romantic comedies, there's really nothing to gauge what like a real relationship is supposed to look like. Like, there's supposed to be some arguments. So you're like, oh, maybe this is like normal. But there's a distinct difference from healthy and not healthy. So do you mind kind of sharing just a few things that kind of just come to your mind?
Yeah. And, most of it was with the recent one, because, the most recent one was the one who made me look back and be like, oh, that's what it was. But the last one, her dad was like extremely blatant about it. But this last one was the biggest lesson in that regard. He was really big on making food, right? And I guess that maybe that's his love language. I don't know, but he would spend a lot of money on food, and I wouldn't, feel well. And he would make it, and he would just expect me to, compliment him the whole time, the whole way. And then when I'd have to eat a lot of it, like he would give me the same amount as him. And then he'd get mad when I wouldn't eat it. And then he'd make me feel bad because I wasn't feeling well, which was partially because of meds I was on because of infections from him, but also because I was just in a bad situation. And so he would get mad, and then I would feel bad, and I would feel like, okay, so he did do something for me, and I did it. I wasn't grateful. It just made me like it made me feel like I was the bad person. And then I'm trying to think of like even like better specific, better situations that were confusing, because while you're in it, you're just like, no, because he'll compliment you 1 minute, and then he'll give you the silent treatment the next minute because he was mad about something that you did like last week or something. It was just also very confusing, and it's hard to even put in words when you look back on it. But like subtle jabs, like I have so I have anxiety, and I get my hands are really shaky for some reason. And he asked me, he needed someone to shave his head, the back, and he has dreads. And so he stressed how important it was not to hit the dreads, But then he's like, but I don't know if I want you to do it because your hands are shaky. And so it was like these subtle jabs, but he also he had to have me do it. So he wanted me to know how important it was for me to do it, no one else, but totally made me nervous to do it anyways. It's just crazy. I don't even know. And he would want me to sit there and watch him while he cooked and follow him everywhere. And while you think it's because he wants you near, it's just because he wants the control, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I feel as if you and I are kind of on the same wavelength here, but it's interesting how when you're far away from it and it's in your past a certain amount of time, it's kind of hard to like remember. Like
The good
you
stuff.
remember how it made you feel.
Yeah.
Like you remember it was really bad, but
Right.
to give an actual scenario is like difficult for some reason. Because
Well,
it's
he
not like
came
a
over.
big
Okay, so
thing.
here's one time I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I like exactly. It's hard to remember all the good stuff, but while you're with him, you're trying to focus on the good stuff. But then when you're out, you're like, oh my goodness. But so he helped me move, right? He came over, it was just him and my dad. He helped me move. And, you know, that was his big thing. Anytime he'd talk about me never fighting for him or having his back, and he fights for us, it's always, I helped you move. And so that was him fighting for me, I guess. But, you know, it's more of a thing that you would do for someone you love. But he helped me move. And then he stayed and put my bed together and then took us out to dinner, right? And just, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was on cloud nine. And then I didn't hear from him for like 2 days. So, and then when, you know, like maybe it was one, like a meme here and there or something. And then when I would bring up how I was feeling, it was then turned on me for overreacting, and like I was just delusional and making things out of nothing and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's an example, because then you're like, you know, you're right, because you don't want to be the crazy girl.
Yeah.
And I'm not. It's
Yeah.
crazy because I'm one of the most laid back ones. And so that's one of the, I guess, the biggest red flags for me too, was I'm like, this has never been, I've never had such a difficult time communicating with somebody.
Yeah.
There's never been so many misunderstandings.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Out of the smallest things.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I remember even saying stuff similar to that. Like, I've never had this issue before. Nobody's ever questioned me in this before. My loyalty's never been questioned before.
No.
My love has never been questioned before. And all of a sudden now I'm this crazy, you know, manipulative,
Delusional,
lying, thieving woman. And I'm like,
right.
Oh my God. So then you're trying so hard to prove
that you're not.
that
Yeah,
you're not.
It's insane. And then that's exactly what they wanted. So it's like it all worked out. So when you're on the back end and you're like, oh, I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
But
I love where you're at now though. I love your positive outlook. I love your vibrations that you're putting out into the world. How is your daughter, right? How is your daughter kind of coped through that and now after that?
So, you know, what's funny is at first, you know, she was really with this recent relationship because she didn't really know her dad living with him. She's only known him from distance. We left when she was I left when she was 1.5. And, but with this recent one, she was really excited at first to go and hang out because he's got a daughter and they got along most of the time. But, she was really excited, and then I noticed a change, and it was after an event that she had witnessed where it was just violence that just got out of control with a friend. It was over a puzzle that his friend messed up that we were working on. He was working on it mostly, I think. I don't even know what happened, but he messed up the puzzle and he flipped out, and it ended up with him strangling him, I mean, in front of his daughter and my daughter. But he wouldn't let me take both of them away. He'd let me take my own daughter, not his. Don't you touch my daughter. Then he got in my face because I was like, can we move this somewhere? Then it became about me making things worse. And then I was outside with my daughter, and then he comes out and stands over me, you know, because he's 6'2", 250, 300 pounds. She, since that day, it was a total switch. I can't even believe that I went back. You know, he even talked me into it, going back and going home in 10 minutes, like on the phone when we called.
Wow.
But I'm glad I didn't go back because it showed her that there's some sort of strength in me. But she was very in tune to what had happened, and she all of a sudden was not thrilled to go over. And after the dust settled, you know, once I finally left him, she told me that she was terrified that he was going to hurt me or kill me. So anytime I went over there and stayed the night, she hated it. It was terrible. So I can't imagine the turmoil that was going on in her.
How old
was
was she?
one of the reasons I left her dad, because I didn't want her to have to go through turmoil. She's 9. She'll be 10 in September. So she was 9.
Wow.
So she was very perceptive. And she, his daughter wasn't exactly the sweetest to her either. So she was suffering there too. And and we had a dog at home that he wouldn't allow me always to go home and attend, and I don't say allow, like I can't make my own decisions, but you understand, it just wasn't worth the fight and all that. And so, that kind of wore on her, but ever since then, it's been great.
Yeah.
Everything's with her has been much better too. And behavior.
Afterwards. Can you see a difference in her settledness of anxiety, or the calmness? Can you tell?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And it makes it all worth leaving, if not for myself, at least for her.
Yeah. 1,000%. Was she a big reason why you decided to leave? Was that like in the back of your mind?
Absolutely. She was from, the first relationship, and continues to drive me through the second one. I should have left sooner.
Yeah.
I should have, if not, again, for myself, I should have picked up on that, for her. But ultimately, that's the main reason that got me through I'm no contact now for almost 3 months. And
nice.
Yes. And she got me through that, because I just couldn't, it was not just for the principal, but embarrassing. And if I'm sitting here telling her all this stuff and then just go and do it, it was a terrible example. So yeah. What kind of love bombing?
What kind of love bombing did they do?
So, the first one, not much, but this one, it wasn't a whole lot either. It was, we were friends for about 6, almost 7 years before that. So I don't think he had to do much. I was an easy catch, probably easy prey. So he was super nice at first, and always, like I said, cooking. And then he would get mad, but at first you couldn't always tell if he was completely mad. And then it would come up later when I brought up how I was feeling, and then it would all shift to me and said, well, you, and I'm like, well, what does that have to do with this? But he was super nice, seemed caring, attentive. And, he didn't do the whole love thing. And he had mentioned that we were twin flames, stuff like that. But then all that just, stopped. And then he didn't even care if I'd come over hungry, and it wouldn't even matter. Yeah. Because I would always build my day around it and just wait and not eat, because I didn't want to get him mad if I didn't freaking eat. So I didn't eat, and then I'd end up starving. And I'm like, okay, and get McDonald's on the way home. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Same thing. Exactly. My whole life revolved. And same thing where I'd be starving. Now I don't wait for anybody. I just eat.
Yeah. Not even my daughter. I'm like, we can eat sometimes together if you're ready or not. Because sometimes she'll eat later, and I'm like, we're good.
I'm like, girls got to eat over here. I'm hungry. Not waiting. Oh, that's too funny.